Welcome back to Outside Views, and today we need to drill down into the one place where the current Brexit mess can realistically be fixed. The details of a genuine more for more deal with the European Union on security and the movement of people. The rhetoric of the past decade has been built on a false binary, either total independence or total submission, and that paralysis is costing the nation dearly. And my personal view is that the British must trade away the most rigid, economically damaging red lines for the sake of the geopolitical and economic security of the future, and the current political momentum finally provides the window to do exactly that. And the most urgent area for cooperation is security and defense, even if they just failed on that one at one point. And this is where the more for more concept should be most enthusiastically embraced. The world has changed dramatically since 2016, and the biggest, most critical threat is now not from Brussels and their bureaucracy, as they always claimed, but from Moscow, Beijing, and Washington, D.C., under a potentially isolationist administration. The UK is a major European military actor, a nuclear power, and a key member of NATO, and the EU is a rapidly evolving defense and security actor with immense economic leverage. The two must work together, not just bilaterally, but through structured long-term cooperation. The Security and Defense Partnership signed in May 2025 was a critical first step, but it's only a framework. And to make it real, the UK needs to do two things that go against the old nationalist dogma. First, pay to play. The EU has launched the massive €150 billion Security Action for Europe loan facility, the SAFE, to boost defense industrial capacity across the continent. The UK defense industry is deeply integrated into European supply chains, and its inclusion in SAFE would have been essential for both British firms and for the pace of European rearmament. However, access to this program and others like the European Defence Agency requires the UK to negotiate a fair financial contribution and sign a security pact that sets out the rules for third-party participation. The UK must stop demanding special free access and accept that financial contributions are the cost of industrial and military integration. And second, commit to alignment. The EU is looking for more than ad hoc cooperation. It needs a reliable partner that can be brought into its system. And this means accepting some level of alignment on issues like hybrid threats, sanctions coordination, and critical infrastructure protection. The UK should be invited to participate in CSDP missions and be given access to initiatives like PESCO. But this comes with a non-negotiable condition that the UK cannot have decisional powers, yet must agree to abide by the rules. The former government's rejection of a structured security relationship in 2020 was an act of political self-harm that must now be undone by an ambitious comprehensive security pact covering military technology, R&D, and the mobility of forces across Europe, even if the new government also already failed in some place with SAFE. The geopolitical reality of 2025 dictates that a stronger European alliance reaching beyond institutional boundaries is a matter of national survival, not political preference. And the second major area for more deal is mobility and the movement of people, and this is where the ghosts of free movement continue to haunt the debate. The reality is that the UK needs people, particularly young people, for its economy and its society, and the EU wants to restore the lost cultural and educational links. The current government has an imperative to reduce overall net migration, yet the UK's existing youth mobility schemes with non-EU countries have actually created a visa headroom by having a zero or even negative net migration effect. This is the golden ticket for a deal. The logical next step is a youth experience scheme, which in short would be a big yes, which is now being formally negotiated and is the absolute no-brainer of the entire UK-EU reset. The proposal is for a reciprocal, time-limited and capped scheme for 18 to 30-year-olds to live, work and study for a period of, say, 2 to 4 years. This is not a return to free movement. It's a controlled, managed visa route modeling on existing schemes with Australia or South Korea. And we're talking about Europe. And the political genius of this deal is that it can be implemented with an initial cap, perhaps at the 44,000 visas that UK's existing scheme's net migrant effect has created, meaning the overall impact on the UK's net migration figures would be negligible or zero. This policy is popular, it's economically sensible and politically defensible. 72% of the public support it. The EU, however, is indeed asking for more. The negotiations involved linking the yes to the UK's association with the Erasmus Plus program, which the UK unilaterally left after Brexit. And they are also pushing for the mutual recognition of professional qualifications to help UK services exporters. And furthermore, the EU is pressing for equal treatment of EU students in the UK in terms of tuition fees, which would require the UK to abandon the discriminatory international fee regime, at least for EU nationals, that was a consequence of leaving. This is the more the UK must give for the more it gets. Yes, the UK needs to give ground on student fees, and yes, it needs to pay to rejoin key programs like Erasmus+. But the value of restoring these people-to-people connections, of addressing skill gaps, and of building the trust required for wider cooperation on agri-food, energy, and even financial services far outweigh the cost. A success here would be the crucial trust-building win that the entire reset hinges upon. And the overarching theme for every of these negotiations, from the sanitary and phytosanitary agreement on food to the youth mobility scheme, must be a willingness to sacrifice the symbolic for the substantive. The UK government is understandably terrified of the political firestorm that reopening the fundamental questions of the relationship would cause. However, as Stella Creasy pointed out, avoiding confrontation has only led to a decade of decay. This government must use the overwhelming evidence of the 6 to 8% GDP loss to confront those who still preach the fantasy of Brexit benefits. It needs to go to Parliament armed with an independent impact analysis and state clearly, this is the cost of our current policy, and this is the price for fixing it. That price is more alignment, more financial contribution, and more managed movement of people in exchange for more trade, more investment, and more security. The time for fear-based political management is over. The time for geopolitical pragmatism is now. And this is the only way to escape the current trap. The British cannot afford to let the acrimonious negotiations of the past dictate the response to the geopolitical gravity of the present. The opportunity is open, the political mood is shifting, and the economic imperative is screamingly clear. The government has the chance to be the one that finally put the nation's economic health and security first. But it requires the courage to say, the red lines are dead. Put everything on the table. The future of the country literally depends on the government's ability to act with maturity and strategic foresight, rather than being paralyzed by the noise of the political fringe.